Marckie Marketing is implementing 2 projects geared to boost tourism, investment and rural development in Malawi. The organization is promoting local and international tourism as the industry is facing challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us in NBC Exclusive this week is co-founder of Marckie Marketing, a digital marketing company, Kamana. I'm Kumbukani Phiri. Thanks for joining us. Kamana, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kumbukani.
Now, maybe before we go into the actual discussion, I want you to tell us how the tourism industry has been affected by COVID-19, you think?
Well, I think it's been impacted heavily, even just from our travels, talking to, to honors, to, like managers of these organizations. You can tell that the industry has been hit so hard. Because the tourism industry minus travel, there's no tourism at all. So I think right now I can feel them. I do understand what they're going through. It's been really hard for them. The pandemic has really affected the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, you just pointed out here that you did carry out an excavation of Malawi.
Yes.
All the districts of the country.
Yes.
If you're to paint a picture, apart from what we've already heard, but
yes.
in your words, what are you going to describe Malawi like?
So the idea, I want to go back and talk about the idea of the project. So the reason why we picked this time to do it, because we always believe that in our field, which is marketing, preparation is everything. So we wanted to make sure that there's going to be a day when this passes by, just like everything else. When that time comes, we want to make sure that Malawi is ready for people to see. If I have to describe tourism in Malawi, it has so much potential. When we went around, just going to places, Malawi is one of those places that I want to call it, it's untouched. A lot of people don't know about it. But the potential, the things that we have, it's exactly what tourism needs. We have everything we need. We have, you talk about the waters when you go to the lake shore, and then you talk about the game reserves. We have everything that we need for the industry. I think if we could focus on it a little bit more, I think this could be one of those destination places that people want to come to.
Now, how do you intend to go to market Malawi?
So we are a digital marketing company. We are based in the US and we are also based here. So most of our work is done actually here. So the reason why we actually chose to do this project is it's almost like a side thing. We have worked with a lot of big organizations that are abroad. I mean, we have Europe, we have North and South America, we have Australia. Those are pretty much the areas that we kind of service. But we haven't really gotten into Africa yet. So we thought, well, why not? Let's do a project that has to do with our country, which is Malawi. Because we believe tourism industry now is getting to a point where the ministry cannot do it by itself. So there has to be some entities where it's just citizens doing it. So that's how we ended up coming up with this project. It's called Kashmir 265, and it's under the social tag All Things Malawi. So All Things Malawi website, you go on TikTok, All Things Malawi, you go on Facebook, it's All Things Malawi, YouTube, All Things Malawi. So we kind of cover everything because that's what we do for for our clients.
Mm-hmm. Now, my interest is that a study that you conducted. Do you think that Malawi is being marketed enough? And if it isn't, what should be done?
I think from the study that we did, I feel like we are, with marketing, there's never enough. But I think we also can change how we do things. Like in our study, we find that a lot of times, even on an international level, the people that do travel a lot, there's a certain age group, they either influence the travel or they travel themselves. So when you look at Generation Y, for example, that's where you find people that were born between 1980 and 2000. Those are the people that are doing a lot of traveling. But then when you study about that generation, this is the generation that spends their time online. So we can make brochures what we want. We can do, TV ads, but that's not what they do. They are online, they're on their phones, and they're doing all these things. So I think if we could strategize and change and target that audience, we may even be able to spark just some local tourism, because at this point in time, tourism is depending on that. It's depending on the local tourism. And when you talk about, like international, for example, you hear these words, influencers. A lot of influencers, that's what they do. And if you see, that's the edge, So that's what we do. We deal with numbers. We are the numbers guys. We can break it all down and say, this is your opportunity. And I think that's where our marketing, when you talk about opportunity, we feel like that's the place that we can help.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's the idea or the thinking behind your company, and how do you intend to go about it?
Now, as far as the marketing of Malawi, or as far as our marketing company?
As far as marketing of Malawi is concerned.
Okay, I guess the idea is that we hope that people can really see what we are doing. Like I said, this is a volunteer project. It's not something that's been funded by anybody. We were lucky to actually find some partners that we work with. Sunbird was one of them. They came out big. We talk about Club Mac. They came out good. A big Blue Zebra in Salima. So we were able to have Ngala in Kota Kota. We were able to find some partners who we work with to get the project done. But we hope that even if it's not us, but the government to look at opportunities like what I just explained now and really exploit them, because that's really the future of tourism. The future of tourism is based on that edge.
Have you been given an audience by the Ministry of Tourism to actually articulate your thoughts on the tourism industry?
Absolutely. So what we were able to have, some of the things we were not going to be able to do it if it wasn't for them. We were able to talk with the PS. He was very helpful. He was the one who kind of guided us through places to go. What we wanted from them really is just their signature. We wanted to make sure they know we are doing this. But it wasn't a ministry kind of project. It was our project that we were able to get a sign off from them. But their support was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, seeing that you don't live here, you live in the US.
Yes.
How do you maneuver? How do you go about the project itself?
So we actually have a team here, and this whole project of Kashmir 265 was really just to capture as much content as we can. But there's always going to be stuff to capture as we go along, and I think my team here will be able to do that very, very well. But I think we have a lot of content to really share with the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, we did also talk about the issue of, one of the outcries that has also come out from the tourism industry is that you find that I interacted with some people in the tourism industry
Mm-hmm.
who are running some units along the lake.
Yes.
There was an outcry that people would pay already in the UK or in the US when they're coming here. When they're coming here, they've already paid, and the government of Malawi doesn't know any of the transaction that is going. It's not benefiting from the transaction because the owners are probably foreigners.
Yes.
How do you think this should be dealt with, that this money goes to the Malawi pocket?
And I think, for me, I would love to get into the depth of that. But I think the system is also broken in so many ways. What I would say is, I know just from going places to places, I think they have some levies or taxes that these organizations are supposed to pay. On the technical part of it, I don't know how the government can do to make sure that those transactions are going into their pockets, but I think there has to be some level of responsibility for them too. Because from what I see, if they don't do their part, it's hard for the government to be able to support them as they need, because they need support. And when I say they need support, you go to some places that, how we got there, we're like, how did we even make it here? So that's not something that one organization can do. but the government can. But if they're not doing their part to support the government, it's kind of hard for the government to do it. So.
You're watching NBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is Chimwemwe Kamwana of Marckie Marketing. We'll be back shortly after this break. Welcome back to NBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is Chimwemwe Kamwana of Marckie Marketing. Now, Chimwemwe, we've talked a lot about tourism, and it's an interest area because there's a lot of potential in tourism in Malawi.
Absolutely.
What areas do you think that the government should work on to improve the tourism industry, in your opinion?
I think the first one for me, and this is huge, the road network. You know, it's very... in our travels, I cannot tell you how many times we were stuck just because we cannot get to the destination because of just how bad the roads are. When we were on the southern part, it was a little bit better. But as you go towards the north, there we had so many issues with roads. And I think that's, if the government wants to take this seriously, the first investment that they have to fix are the roads, because the roads are really, really bad. It's like, you know, in the service industry, we say it's the first impression, right? So how you get there, that's the first impression. You don't want to get there exhausted, busted 20 tires because you cannot go up a hill. So I think that's the number one thing. And then I also want to talk about that as far as local tourism, because some of the roads, they're right now, let's say if you go to Liwonde National Park or you go to Nika, for example, you can only go there at a certain time if you have a big car, right? Small cars are not really allowed. So what you're doing is you're cutting off local tourism, because a lot of the local tourists, they drive the small cars. So you are literally taking out about 80% of your income right there. That's where your money is coming through. So until they get serious with the roads, we will still be struggling. But I can tell you, that's the number one thing they need to look into.
Now that you talk about the issue of local tourism, there's the issue of exorbitant prices, that most of these facilities are on the higher side. What do you think needs to be done so that locals can also patronize these places?
And that's a very good question. And I'll tell you this, I think what they're missing, for example, when we went to Tanzania, most places would have two prices. We would have the international pricing and we would have the local pricing. So we don't have that. We don't have that here in Malawi. But I'm telling you, you know, it's better to get something right than not getting nothing at all. So I think if we could fix the pricing, if we could talk to these entities and the owners to really inspire traveling in the locals, because even if when you talk about marketing, for example, we always say many avenues are better than one. So if you promote people traveling into these places, guess what happened? The generation I was telling you, they're going to be taking pictures, they're going to be posting them, whether it's on the Instagram, it's going to inspire somebody else to go. But if you cut them off where they can't even make it there, then you're cutting off your own marketing. It's free marketing. Literally, it's free marketing. So I hope they look into that seriously. A lot of countries that do good at this, especially a lot of these, like Tanzania, Kenya, they have prices for the locals.
Yeah. On your excavation, What did you find in terms of how the facilities look? Are they of international standards? Do we need to up our game when it comes to how these facilities look?
We do. You know, there were some that were good, and then there were some that we visited that unannounced that it was even hard to sleep on. So I think people have to understand that where somebody stay, I'm talking about the inside, is more important than the outlook, because they have these nice looking buildings. But when you go into the beds, they're all broken. And I think people have to realize that tourism, it's as much as it really matters about how the outside looks, but the inside does matter too. We found a lot of that, where you were just not ready.
Do you think that enough has been invested into the tourism industry, whether by the government itself or by people?
The government has a lot of work to do. I think on the people side, I want to say there's a lot of inspiration. When you go around, you see everybody wants to get into the industry. So that's a good sign. It means they're seeing the potential in it. But they have to be supported, because if we do not support them, then it's going to be even hard for them. The government has a role. They have a role. People like us have a role. So when we have all that going, that's a very good machinery. But if one entity is not working, it's not how it. So the government, I would say the government has a role to play. But the people are doing their part too.
Now, I do know that you're also going into rural development. Tell us more about that.
Yes. So that's another project that we are doing actually. That one is called Next Malawi. So the idea behind it is we want to build this technological center. That's what we're calling them. So basically, there's going to be a block that has a computer lab and another block that has a library. The idea is we want to take education to the rural, to places that really people don't have access to computers, right? But we believe that the next generation is going to be based on that. It's going to be, when you talk about creativity or you talk about learning, computers are beginning to be a big part of it. We started this project way before COVID, and imagine if it was done by now. It means that we would have given some students, somewhere like right now our project is in Malacca, and those kids would have had access to education if we did this early. So that's the whole idea behind it. So we plan as we grow to really keep building this. There's going to be a computer lab and a library on the other side.
Okay. Now, when you rate the issue of the digital issues here in Malawi, how do you look at them in terms of education?
We are way behind. I don't even think we've started it. And that's what I'll say. And I was very happy when I saw, people reporting about the internet prices. I feel like the internet should be at a place where it's a basic commodity now. And it's not just because people want to browse, but that's where people are getting their information. That's where people are learning. If we can open ourselves to that digital age, what happens now is instead of having people aspiring to go somewhere to learn, those big schools can actually come to you, because that's what a lot of these countries are doing. So, we'll end up having a lot more people who are educated, who have access to technology, learning stuff, doing projects, but we have to focus on it again. That's something that has to be a big deal.
Is it okay if I ask you how much you've invested in all this?
It is okay, but I would say there's been a lot of money that has, from our organization that have gone into this. I cannot throw a figure into it, but again, we believe that giving is part of doing, right? So we cannot be an organization that just takes. We have to be an organization that also gives back. So giving back for us is a measure of how good we're doing.
Now, finally, I want to get your thoughts on the future of tourism in Malawi,
Yeah.
and what you think needs to be done in the future.
Yeah, I think first place, like we said, let's get these road networks done. If the government can get serious about it, I think that's the very first place to start. The second thing, I think they need to engage in real players when it comes to marketing. Um, you know, tourism doesn't happen by chance. It's something that you have to be intentional about it. Marketing, that's what we do. So we have to be intentional on what we are doing. I would say that's the second step. And then the third one, I think we have to embrace what a lot of countries are doing, in which is you put on all your investments, build forward, right? Expecting that someday people will come. I think the approach here, we approach tourism haphazardly. And I can tell it's almost a catch even with the government. People build, you know, something small and expect people to come. There's a lot of things in the world that people may be interested in. We can use the natural resources that we have. Malawi has such beautiful waters. I mean, it's just beautiful. When you go to like Nika, for example, one of the places that it's just amazing to be there. But again, if we don't have infrastructures there to be able to support tourism, it's not going to happen. So I believe that the government has to really embrace the policy of building forward and hope, not even hoping, but understanding that it may not happen now, but someday.
Chimwemwe, it was very nice having you in the program. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you too.
And that's how we conclude this edition of MBC Exclusive. Our guest was Chimwemwe Kamwana of Marckie Marketing. I'm Kumbukani Phiri. Until next time, it's thanks for watching and goodbye.